I once heard a very smart man say that the future will belong to those that can master thematic linkage. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you look back at any story of people who have, created something that has impacted the world and changed the way we live, in ways that now seem normal, but before they were there, were really hard to conceive of, then we will see that in order for people to do that, it's like they were either drawing from divine inspiration, or they were able to combine and blend and braid and nest and dovetail seemingly random and unrelated concepts and blend them into something completely new. So, for example, I was on the plane coming back home from LA to Sydney, and I was watching the story of the biography of McLaren, who came up with created the McLaren cars, the Formula One, the Le Mans, and all these amazing super hypercars that we have today, all started with this guy McLaren. He was an amazing driver, but more than just being a great driver, he was also an engineer and a great mechanic. And a lot of the things that across the board in the automotive industry now, and racing especially, were created by these guys. For example, when the engines started to develop to a point where the cars were becoming so fast that they would start to come off the road, to find a solution to that, he actually went to a guy that used to work on the Concorde back in the day when there was a Concorde, to create aerodynamics for road cars. And that's when the wings came into play in car racing. And now, they're standard. You get a spoiler on your sports car at home, on your Toyota, or on your Hyundai, or on your Kia, and that's just normal now. But back in the day when McLaren was dominating Le Mans and Formula One, the wings set them apart from the rest of the field. I think there was, if I remember correctly in the story, they won the season 1 and 2, the manufacturers and the drivers in the McLaren team, and they got 11 wins. One driver got 5 wins, the other driver got 6 wins. The whole team won every single race throughout the whole season, and they were just going so much quicker than everyone else because their cars are more stable, just because of that one innovation of aerodynamics. So I like to get involved in lots of different, seemingly unrelated subjects, and to find the thematic linkage between them and come up with something either that's completely new, which doesn't happen very often, or discover something that was always there that no one could see before. But when it's brought to your attention, it's like, of course, obvious. Why didn't I think of that? It's so simple now that you can see it. So another example I like to use, which is a really simple one that everyone relates to, is the Rubik's Cube. Everyone knows the Rubik's Cube, or have seen one, or played with one, or solved one. Some people are really competitive and they can do them like blindfolded in one hand within 5 seconds or less. The point I'm trying to make here, and I'm getting to in just a second, is that before the Rubik's Cube was there, someone had to think of it. Now, the kind of thinking that comes up with the Rubik's Cube when it doesn't exist yet. That's the kind of thinking that I'm really interested in. If you haven't heard the story already, some people have. My family on my mother's side, the men in my family on my mother's side, my uncle and my grandfather, were aeronautical engineers. They worked for Ansett, which was an airline before they got broken up and absorbed by Qantas. And they were pretty much at the top of their field in fitting and turning, and they were very well respected aeronautical engineers, and they'd fix everything on planes, from engines to guidance systems to coffee machines. And one of the things that I really was impressed by them and that I learned at a young age was about tool making. They would create tools that didn't exist for particular jobs that maybe were one-off, or were, I heard this example today, it was like the Swiss cheese model, where that it's so rare for this problem to ever happen. It's like all the holes in the Swiss cheese have to line up in a particular way while the stars are aligned and the zodiac and the moon is in position, and then you get this problem that typically any mortal man will never have to deal with, but eventually, once every 1,000 years it turns up, and someone has to create a tool to solve that problem. So that's the kind of lineage that I come from, and the kind of programming that I got as a kid, which sometimes is hard and frustrating and not easy, but I'm so grateful for now, because I notice that as an adult, a lot of people don't have that type of programming. And one of the problems with that is that it's unnoticeable, and it's almost invisible and sometimes boring, but when you need it, and it's unless you know what you're looking for, it's very hard to find. So that's the kind of niche area that I'm into now, and I really am really interested in creating these types of tools for people that need it, but they don't really know that they need it yet. But when they do, they'll be glad that I made the tool for them. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing, and that's where I'm going. So I hope you enjoy some of the videos that I'll be producing over the producing. I'm just holding the iPhone up with my hand and videoing this. I hope you find it interesting, and stay tuned, because there might be something of value in it for you. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your likes and appreciation comments.